Well, now I want to introduce you to Dennis Brennan. You met him a little bit last week, and tonight he's going to talk about photography. And starting in a couple of weeks, I think you're going to really enjoy this part. Because Dennis is connected to certain magazines and has written for them and photographed for them and done railroad photos and so forth for many years, and has a tremendous reputation in the hobby for his photography. Dennis is going to offer you the opportunity to take some photos, send them to him, and on the show, starting in about 3 weeks, Dennis will start going through the photos and helping you modify the photos to a point where any magazine would be proud to accept them as far as publishing the article that you're trying to get published. And I can tell you that in my past, the rejection of articles, in many, many cases, if not most of the cases that I know of, was because of the quality of the photography. The writing is easy to deal with. I mean, that's not the problem. The problem is the photography. And for Dennis to offer his help and advice to you, I think is really going to be an interesting segment on our future shows. And tonight he's going to talk about photography frankly, as an art form for us and for model railroading. And Dennis, welcome. I really appreciate this.
Hey, glad to be here, Jim, and I'm glad to get into this. I hope when we're done with what I'm going to present to you tonight and then in the future that I can help everybody become a better photographer. Now, I'm coming from this as an artist photographer. I did commercial photography for many years, and I don't really see a difference between commercial photography and the art in photography. Somebody asked me that one time, well, that's just your commercial work. Where is your art? Well, I put art into everything that I do. And hopefully I can share tonight with you the thought and the process and the difference between a photograph and something that is art. So with that in mind, then let's begin. And if anybody has anything to say or they have a question while I'm doing this, just let me know. Just break in, let me know, and I'll be glad to answer it. So with that going, let's get started. We're going to talk about the art behind the science, because we all know that photography is a craft. You have to have a certain amount of knowledge before you can do a photo. So let's just go to, all right, there we go. This is a shot that I did as a cover for Classic Toy Trains. Now I want you to all look at this photograph, and I want you to think about what this photograph is communicating. Just look at it. Does anybody have any idea? Can anybody give me some input? Tell me what you see.
No.
Nice, cool day.
Crisp day.
How do you know that? How do
No
you know?
clouds in the sky and the snow. It's crisp.
Okay. What time of day?
It looks like this sun, I don't know, morning
Tree with no leaves on it.
well, time of day.
You got a shadow behind the tree on that wall, so the sun is maybe at a low angle, but I'm not, yeah, and behind the truck too. So the sun is to the right at a lower angle.
Well, and then you also have a shadow right here.
Yes.
Okay, so the sun is up here somewhere in the sky. But what else is it about this photograph? It looks real, right? What is it about it that does that?
The
Maybe
depth,
the way
the
you done
depth of
the
field.
snow.
The one thing that I found, and you did it here, is the truck has on the right has a reflection in the glass. And I found when I do outdoor photos, if you can figure out where the sun is and move a model that you can move a little bit or move the whole scene to get that reflection, because that's something your mind doesn't pick up, but actually sees as being very realistic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now I'll let you guys think about, there's a reason that I put the sun where I put it. And the reason being is that I wanted to highlight the corrugations on the building. I also purposely wanted that little reflection in the window that was pointed out. And this photo works because it gives you a sense of time. It gives you a sense of place. It's what do we know by looking at this? This is an industrial area. That could be an industrial area in any city. We know that it's a crisp day. Why? Look at the snow on the ground. Now, a lot of modelers don't do snow like that. And that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Every time I see a snow scene, it's usually like, it looks like there was a blizzard and everything is covered. Well, if you cover everything, then you don't have any detail. We can still see that there's ballast on fill along the fill here. We can see that snow that just kind of hits the roofs a little bit. And the really cool one is this here. That's the kind of snow where the wind came in and just kind of moved it around, and now it's kind of icy. Now, I have to admit, that was a happy accident. I would love to say that I put that there with, very carefully sprinkling snow, but I put it there. But the way it happened was, like I said, a happy accident. And that's because I use baking powder, baking soda, and typically when you do that, you sprinkle it through a strainer. Well, usually you put a piece of paper under that strainer when you first pour the stuff in so that it doesn't all come right down and go through there. Well, I didn't put in the piece of paper. I put the strainer over the street and I sprinkled the stuff in, and I got a big pile of snow right there. And I thought, oh man, I don't want to vacuum that up, because I had carefully done some nice snow over here with my hands sprinkling stuff. So I thought, I wonder if I could just kind of blow it around a little bit. So I just went, and there you go. So the lesson here is, if something isn't quite right, don't just give up and chuck it all. Come up with a solution. That solution worked. So, all right. Oops, we're going the wrong way. Here we go. All right, here's another shot. Now, what about this shot? What time of day is this? What kind of weather is it?
Looks like it's fairly heavy overcast, and there's a little shadow from the guy by the switch stand,
Yes.
or the switch stand.
Yep. So there's a whole different feeling. There's a completely different feeling with this shot. So again, we're talking about lighting. In both of those shots, it's lighting that creates the feeling of atmosphere. That's what it creates. Now, where do you separate? I mean, there's also the modeling. Without the modeling, the best photograph in the world can't make it sing. So you have that too. And the other thing is the camera position. Now, in both of these shots, these are very realistic camera angles. They put you right in the scene. I could be standing right on that rock with my camera and taking that picture. All right. Then we'll go to, and now here we have another one. Now that's the same area as the previous slide. But what's the difference now? What time of day is it now? Anybody?
Late afternoon.
That's not what the way I imagined it. I imagined it as early morning.
Yeah, because of the mist.
Well, the fog, we're coming across a bridge. Okay, the clue here is we're coming across a lift bridge, a bascule bridge. We've got a girder bridge over here that's connected to it. So there's this mist that comes off. There's a harbor. And we have these background buildings here that are kind of silhouetted because the sun is coming up over here. And so we've got some early morning light, and we've got some, and again, this is a cold, I see it as a cold kind of early morning, dreary sort of. Picture the photographer who climbed up on the rocks and waited for that engine to come by. That's what that's all about. The photographer was waiting to get that shot, and he framed it just perfectly. Now here's again, oh, here, okay, and now that was the before. And this is the other view of it. Now here's a scene. Okay, now this scene is, we got a nice, bright, sunny day. And we have the sun coming in from the upper right again. That seems to be one of my favorite angles. Don't ask me why. I just happen to like that. And we see a lot of, it looks like there's a lot of detail in here, but really there's only a few details that really make it work. Okay, now, again, I'm talking about the models themselves, but it's also the lighting that brings this all to life as well. Now, what little details are here that make it pop? Well, there's a little sewer grate right there. Very minor. What's this along the curb? That's a little, what I call street schmutz. You know, the kind of gritty, gravelly stuff that gathers along, you know, curbs and just along railroad crossings. And this shot was actually inspired, and I can't show it to you because it's copyrighted, but it was inspired by a shot that I saw in a book called New York Harbor Railroads. And it had a shadow going across the street like this. It had a little tank engine going across like that. And although this doesn't duplicate that shot, the feeling is there exactly. Same scene, different time, different place, slightly different view. What time of day is it now?
Night.
Well, it could be night, but I am a morning person, okay? It could be night, but it's also, I see this as early morning, and that's in my brain because Mama Kate's Cafe is right there, and you see the warmth in that cafe. Wouldn't you like to be on your way to work and just stop there for a good old cup of Joe? I would. So, and there's a lot of, now this one, the photography and the lighting has everything to do with the modeling. We've got this very warm white light coming out of this store. which is the cafe. And you can see these nice little highlights going across the street, spilling out into the road. I balanced the lighting for this shot so that I had that. Everything else had to be I went for that. I got that level right, and then I balanced everything else to it so that it wouldn't overpower that light. Upstairs, it's very subtle, but the light gets a little bit dimmer as you go away. That's a wall, that's wallpaper in the background. And that's a wall that you're looking at in the side of this front room. So the light gets a little bit dimmer as you get farther away from where the light source is. And you can see that it's very subtle, but you can see it. And also the other reason to light that up was it lit up the sign over here without having an external light on the sign. Now over here, I used a different color temperature light in the factory building. So that also adds another element. This is one of my all-time favorite shots. This is, I call it Denny Loves Sandy. Sandy is my wife. We've been married for almost 50 years. And I go back to when I was a kid. And if I was going out with Sandy, I would have had that on the bridge. And you can see where I started. I was going to do it over there, but I decided that's too hard to get at. Because really the only way I was able to do this is I had to climb out here and hang on to this railing here so I could write Denny Loves Sandy. Trying to do it over there, you saw I couldn't reach. Now, those are just little tiny details that really bring some life into it, whether you make that connection or not. The idea behind it is that it feels right. If you think about why something is the way it is and try to get behind that, then it'll feel right. If it was over here, I'm not sure that it would have the same effect. Here's another little detail. What's that?
Yeah.
Exhaust from the bus going up the back. A little detail here, the sewer grate. And again, street schmutz, perfect. Going up into a kind of a gravel road that goes, where do we don't know. That's probably going to some railroad building. And the beauty of this shot is that it just feels like you came upon it. The photographer just happened to be in the right place at the right time and grabbed that shot. There's no hero in this shot. I mean, when you look at it, I think the eye might go here or to the bus, and then you kind of go to the engine, and then you kind of go up here, and you just wander all around the shot, and then you start to notice all the little details. There's nothing in this photograph that screams at you, look at me, look at me. Nothing. It's very subtle. Even the weathering along here, very subtle. Now, where is the art? Is the art in the modeling? Is the art in the photography? You tell me. Okay, here's a shot that I took of a friend's layout that I did the scenery on. I did all of the scenery. He did the structures. It was just bare bones plywood when I got involved in this. And so I did a scenery, and I wanted to do a shot and frame it with this. He has this trolley overpass here, this concrete overpass. So I framed the shot with that. And again, we have a realistic point of view. Think it, everything, you get pulled into the shot. You want to go right down this road, and the blue truck against the engine is kind of a nice contrast. Okay, here's another shot that I took of a layout here in Kansas City area. Now, again, there's a lot of depth to this shot. And we're up high, but it's kind of realistic. The angle is, where are we? Where is the photographer? Well, maybe he was a bridge worker and he's standing right here. Or maybe he's on some building and he's used his lens to frame the shot that way, but it doesn't feel weird or out of place. Again, you have lighting. There's a light coming from right up in this area. And this is an overall shot of the Sandy Harbor. Now, this whole sky is seamless photographic backdrop paper that I lit with various colors of blue light. And I did the same thing in another shot of mine. All these buildings back here are HO. All these buildings on this upper level are HO. And I chose this camera angle. This is we're talking about photography, talking about lighting, we're talking about camera angles. This angle, I imagine, was taken from the second story of a building right here. Could have been out on a porch. We don't know. Could have been a factory building. We really don't know. He just took a shot and he was trying to catch the train going across the bridge and he caught all this other stuff. Again, the lighting on here is very soft and overcast. Okay, this is a shot that I took of a friend's layout in Kansas City. He's a high railer like myself, but again, you would never notice that. Now, what this shot is about is all the exquisite detail that we have. Now, I've talked about depth of field, and if you looked at all the other shots, there was no issue with depth of field at all. Everything was in focus because that's how usually you see stuff in real life when you go out and shoot a scene like that. But in the case where you can't get everything in focus, I will opt to let the background go a little bit softer than the foreground. If you have a soft foreground, right away it says, hey, this is a model. But if you have a foreground that's sharp, it feels real. And again, the lighting I used, I like hard light. I like shadow. The light tickles everything. The light gives you these highlights off of the bands. It highlights the little weeds here from the side. It highlights the wheel here. Now this wheel on this little push cart, this was bigger than O scale. Why? Because he wanted to force the perspective, and I was like all for it. And the building back here is HO. Here's another shot that I took of a layout in Buffalo, New York. This again was for Classic Toy Trains. This was a long lens shot. Now, who says long lenses don't have good depth of field? I just showed you that it does. I can let the background go maybe a little bit soft, but that's okay. We are sharp from here through here. And you get a nice feeling. Again, where are we? We are right down there alongside the track looking at the model. Where's the light? The light is coming in and you look, the light is kind of coming in from this angle. I will use lights to I usually use a light that's 3/4 to the rear. I hardly ever do any kind of, I use side lighting a lot, or 3/4, what I call like backlight, which comes all along here. And then I'll use a bounce card around here to fill in everything else. Or sometimes I'll use a very soft light way back. So the thing is, you don't want to create two shadows. And you don't want to destroy, yeah.
Dennis, I hate to interrupt you here, but we've got to kind of move on tonight because we're out of time.
All right, well, I'm almost done.
Okay.
All right, unless you want me to stop right now. I got one
No,
more.
no, I don't. No, I just, we need to close it down. Go
All
ahead.
right. Here is a really good way of doing depth of field. Now, this is a DX camera, which is not a full frame camera. It's a Nikon. This is a DX lens, I should say. If you want to see what your depth of field is going to be, focus on the nearest point and note that focus mark. Focus on the farthest point and note where the focus line, where the focus is. In this case, the closest one was 1.5 feet and the farthest one was 5 feet. This is just an example. So if this is exactly where your points are, your nearest and your farthest that you need to have in focus, then everything in between is going to be sharp. These will be sharp. If you put your focus like somewhere in the middle, this will be your near point, this will be your far point. If you move it slightly one way or the other, you're just shifting your depth of field slightly. That's what that's all about. So as long as your near and far are in this window, then you know where you are and you can place your focus somewhere in here. Now, I can explain that more some other time, but it's just a neat little trick. And the last thing I want to show you is I took a wide angle shot, because this is a whole myth that a wide angle lens has more depth of field than a telephoto lens. I took a wide angle shot and we have depth of field from here to here. Now, if I did that with a telephoto lens in the same position, if I couldn't get that shot. But if I take the same shot with a telephoto lens, there you go. That's the same shot. All I did was I moved the camera back and everything is in focus from here to here. And this is your assignment for the next few weeks. I want you to take a shot using the wide angle end of your lens. You can't change that. Go to the wide angle end of your lens, put your camera on a tripod and position that tripod. That's the only thing you can do. You can move the tripod in and out to get the shot. Then once you figure out your shot, take it and now zoom in all the way and move the camera back and get the same shot and show me what you came up with. And if you couldn't do it, tell me why. And if you had a problem, tell me why. And then we'll take it from there. And that's all.